Good morning, friends. So good to be here with you on this beautiful Thursday morning. Aloha, I'm Yenji Denise. Welcome to the COVID-19 Care Conversation, a place that we have tried to create here. We're trying to create a community online where we can talk about the coronavirus pandemic and how we are responding here in the islands. This is, of course, brought to you by the Hawaii Executive Collaborative. That's a consortium of business and civic leaders working to make Hawaii a better place. Ryan, good morning.
Good morning, Yanji. We are excited to have you here. We're excited to have Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell also here. He is standing by. He's going to be with us in just a few moments to give us an update on the city's effort to combat this COVID-19 pandemic. So we encourage all of you to start typing in your questions and also to share this on your social media platforms and like it so that we can reach a wider audience. Today, again, as we said, we'll be talking to the mayor. We'll also be highlighting some of the good things that are happening in this pandemic and learning more about ways that you can get involved.
Yeah, and say hello to us, if you will, in the comments, because we see those as they pop up. And we can always count on Brandon to be here. He's always one of the first. Brandon and Chris Ortiz, man, they tune in every day, and we so appreciate that. Please join the conversation. We know a lot of you have a lot of questions, so let us know what you would like to hear from the mayor. What's different, of course, about this program as opposed to others is that this is a two-way street. So whatever you type in the comments, within reason, of course, we will pose those questions to our guests. And we do have Mayor Kirk Caldwell joining us in just a few minutes. First, of course, we want to give you the latest updates. We begin with the count and 25 new cases, Ryan.
25 new cases reported yesterday for a total of 435 here in the state of Hawaii. 6 deaths are reported. That was another death was added yesterday. It was a man over the age of 65 who was not hospitalized on Maui. And so again, we will continue to keep track of those numbers, hospitalizations as well as those who have recovered, and continue to bring you that information as well.
Yeah, and that not hospitalized is actually a pretty key point because they want to make sure that they want to distinguish that from the cluster of COVID cases that they are now seeing at Maui Memorial Hospital. This was a big headline yesterday. At least 15 employees from Maui Memorial Medical Center testing positive. Those are our frontline medical workers. And so that is kind of the worst case scenario for us. We don't want to see those folks getting infected. The virus has spread to 15 healthcare workers via patients or other employees. As many as 500 people may have had direct contact with those workers or are now at risk. So in a very quick response, Premier Medical Group, which has been doing the drive-through testing that we've been seeing over the weekends, and they're doing another one at in Waianae today. They actually flew, thanks to Hawaiian Airlines, for free to Maui, and they are doing drive-through testing. That is happening today in Kahului and tomorrow in Hana.
Yeah, so a lot of testing and a lot of things that are happening overall. And for more on what's happening in the city and county of Honolulu, we want to welcome in Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell to the conversation and thank him once again for joining us. He was with us a week ago. Happy to have him back with his, is that a Sig Zane print mask on?
That is pretty high styling, high fashion mask.
Yes. Thank you, Anji, and thank you, Ryan. I'm going to take it off to talk, but I keep it on whenever I go outside or go around a lot of other people. If we're in meetings in city and county of 2 or 3, I'll put it on. If it's just one person far away, I take it off. And so we're in a room separate from everyone else. I've taken it off. It was a gift, the Sig Zane mask. I understand that they made a couple, and I was lucky enough to get one. And, I wear it with pride because of Hilo, my Hilo connection, our Hilo connection, Ryan. And, I love Sig Zane. But for the most part, I do wear either palaka masks on the weekends, and I have a lot of just simple cloth masks when I go jogging and things. But at work, I'll wear a nicer one. Just like I try to wear nicer aloha shirts at work. I want to thank you guys for everything that you're doing to get information out to all your readers and viewers of the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. You're doing a great job. And the paper's doing a great job reporting things and getting people to follow the orders and to flatten the curve.
Well, let's start with that. Thank you so much for your kind words, and we love the mask. I want to figure out how I can get a Sig Zane mask. But we want to know, how do you think that stay-at-home order is going? Are enough people following that directive?
I think overall the people of the city and county of Honolulu are following the directive, and we see it. I came to work today it was really, really quiet on many of the streets I drive on. Now, we're coming into a 3-day weekend for government employees and others, so that could be part of it. But I would like to believe that most people are taking it very seriously. But we do have examples where people aren't following. You saw this last weekend. A lot of people at Sandy Beach, even though the parking lot was closed, they were parking on the main road. Diamond Head Lookout, the lookouts are closed, tons of people parking along there. And then we have examples of Lanikai, a lot of folks gathering there, sitting on the beach, just talking, not practicing any type of social distancing. Eokai on the North Shore. We gotta, guys, this is not appropriate. You may be young and healthy. You may be asymptomatic but have the virus, and you pass it to other of your friends who may not show the symptoms either. But then you go home to your parents or your grandparents, and you could get them sick. We have now 6 deaths. This is something that's very serious. The curve could be flattening, but if we're going to win on this and really bring it down, everyone has to ask themselves before they go out, is it absolutely necessary? Are you going to work? Is it an essential job? Are you going out to shop because you need food? Yes, but do you go every day? Try to buy more if possible so you don't have to go out a lot. And if you're going to a beach, are you going to surf to exercise? Are you going to jog to exercise? Are you going to swim laps to exercise? Are you going to boogie board or body surf to exercise? I would say that's appropriate. If you're going to fish to get food to feed your family, that's appropriate. If you're going to gather limu or opihi, that could be appropriate. But to go to the beach and sit down with others in close proximity is not appropriate. It's not essential. It's not about going and getting a suntan. It's about getting exercise and getting out of the parks and back home again. So really asking for that. Now we're coming into a 3-day weekend. It's the Easter weekend. A lot of people have been cooped up. My fear is they're going to feel like, hey, it's a beautiful day out there. By the way, surf is coming up on the North Shore. Let's go watch the waves. Let's gather. Please don't do that. We have a program, no butts on the beach or no peaches on the beach. We're trying to say, please don't sit down right now. Exercise. But other than that, please leave the beaches and go back home after you've gotten your exercise in of whatever nature it is.
To that degree, Mr. Mayor, it almost feels like we're back in college, right? And we have a group assignment, and there's half of the group that's doing all the work, that's doing everything the professor says, but there's those few individuals who don't listen, don't do anything, and could jeopardize the whole project. And that's kind of what we see ourselves in. Will the city at some point take a harder line in terms of the penalties that these people who aren't contributing and could hurt the whole group, could we see harsher penalties for those people?
So, the police department, as you've heard, the Honolulu Police Department, our finest women and men in blue, they've been warning a lot. They're in educational period. When we said stay at home, work at home, they started warning people, not citing them or arresting them. But if you've seen the statistics in today's Honolulu Star-Advertiser, you'll see that the number of citations have gone up dramatically, and there have been more arrests. And as you heard from the Deputy Chief, John McCarthy, on Tuesday at our press conference, they're going into the no longer warning as much, more the citation and arresting. And I think that's something that people who go out this coming weekend need to be careful about, because the police officers are going to be in areas where people gather. They already are walking on beaches, and I feel sorry for them in a way. They're walking on the sand with their shoes. They're dark blue uniforms. It's hot. A lot of them with long sleeve, and they're out there to deliver a message. Let's not make them work harder than they already have to. But yeah, they're going to be out there. They're going to be more citations and more arrests. And as you know, it's a minimum of a maximum of $5,000 and a year in jail. And they don't set that, by the way. The court does. But you get cited, then you got to go to court, get arrested. You're going to be taken down and booked. You don't want this to happen. We don't want this to happen. And to your point, the group assignment in college. I know a lot of the guys going to the beach, they feel invincible because they're healthy, young men and women. Hey, it can't affect me. And maybe it won't affect them that much, but it could affect others. And so many sacrifices have been made. You look at the businesses closed. You look at the unemployment filings. You look at the hurt, the economic hurt, the emotional hurt that people are going through. If we're going to go through all this hurt, can't we all pay part of the, perform appropriately, make the sacrifice, don't do stupid things, so we can get through this quicker and start to climb out of this this huge impact we're all suffering through.
You know, we're reading the comments and we have a lot of folks writing in, and we want to give you a chance to clear the air on this story that came out yesterday about the potential for you and your cabinet to get 3% raises at a time where, as you acknowledged, unemployment is going through the roof. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Will your cabinet and will you be taking a raise this year?
So that was a very inaccurate story, and as you notice, it did come down. It was up for a couple hours and then brought down. This issue of pay raises for city employees, cabinet, and others is something that is worked on for a long period of time. It was back in probably before the end of last year in January. Proposals were being made for increases way before this pandemic hit. And as it's progressed and as we've started to get into the pandemic, for sure in March, there is no intention to ask for pay raises. And in fact, I have asked the Salary Commission not to give any pay raises to any of our cabinet employees, starting with me on down to everyone else who works in our cabinet. And so the story was taken down. I understand they're going to do a new story, but absolutely not. We're not asking for a pay raise during this period of time. You know, when I came in as mayor, in my first couple years, I actually asked our cabinet to take a 5% pay decrease, voluntary. They all did. Every single one of them did it because we were still climbing out of our 2008 Great Recession. I came in end of 2012. And so every cabinet member voluntarily took a 5% cut. We're not asking for any increase in pay. I wish that would have been asked of me before they posted the story. We didn't have time to respond. I would have said what I just told you. So no, we're not asking for any pay increases at this point. And I will be confirming that in writing to the Salary Commission.
Okay, thank you for making that clarification. Ryan, go ahead.
We have a lot of comments that are coming in, and because there's so many, I'm going to just try to summarize some of them because they're, all sorts of questions rather than getting to one specifically. One that we do continue to see and is asking about the length of this stay. We know that April 30th was sort of the initial order for people to stay in. I guess people are sort of looking long term. Is this something that we can continue to see? Is there any indication as to how long people could potentially be asked to sort of stay indoors?
You know, it's a very good question, Ryan. It's something that I ask myself every day, and I ask people around me every day, how long? We noticed that both on both the city and the state have set a deadline of April 30th for the stay at home, work at home. The country has also set deadlines like that. Most other mayors and governors have done the same. We've seen a couple jurisdictions actually extended through May. I'm not ready to make that decision. Part of it is, are we bending the curve? That's why we talk so much just today about people, complying with the stay at home, work at home. It can result in better outcomes down the road and climbing out of it more quickly. So I'm going to look till the end, to the middle of April, which is next week. What are we seeing? We started to talk, both the mayors and the governor yesterday had to sit down about, where do we see in terms of impacts, both hospitalizations and deaths for each of our counties and for the state. And then when do we start making decisions of how do we climb out of this lockdown? So I don't want to set false expectations for the city and county of Honolulu and say, absolutely by the end of April, it's an all clear, you can go back and do your business again, because we could see a spike in the virus again, and we don't want to have to go back to a lockdown. Could it be to the end of May? It could. I'm not ready to make that announcement yet. And of course, I'd want to sit down with our fellow mayors and the governor when we make that announcement. Now, Honolulu could be different than others. I don't think so, but we're going to do what's in the best interest in protecting the health and safety of the folks of Oahu. But here are some of the things, we need to look at. I believe before a determination can be made, we need to do much more active testing. We need to be more leaning forward in the testing of individuals. It's something I've believed in since day one, and we are looking for ways to do exactly that, because we're fighting a war. We're fighting a virus that's invisible. Send scouts out to find out where the enemy is. These scouts are testing, active testing, even people who may be asymptomatic, and getting results. And with that information, we know where the virus is, we know where their clusters there could be, and we know how to fight it. But the other part of it is to come out. Perhaps we're going to have to do testing, know if it's safe to come out. And so how do you actively test randomly within our population for the city and county of Honolulu to know that people are no longer sick, or they have the antibody, right? You've heard about tests. They can do a blood test to say, do you have the antibody now? Which would tell us it's safe. So I'm not ready to announce it. I think testing is part of how we make that decision. But here's something, when it happens, just to give you some ideas for your viewers and readers, is what do you open up first? And maybe I'm just saying, you could say, well, open up retail. And we have merchants only allow a certain number of people into their stores, so there's not crowding, and they still practice good social distancing. And perhaps the people who work in retail are tested, maybe the blood test, to say you're negative. So you know that the people who come in, your patrons who come in, are not going to get sick because your employees are not sick themselves. You could open up restaurants next and say, we're not going to allow the same type of seating. 50% of the tables and chairs need to be removed, so there's greater social distancing. And again, the people who work in the restaurant, whether it be the chef, the cook, the dishwasher, the waiter, the waitress, the busboy or buswoman, is also tested first to make sure they're not COVID active. And so this is how you could begin to open up, begin to test the waters, see what happens. Do we see any increase? Because it's going to take a while when you flatten the curve to actually have the virus disappear. When that happens, I don't think we're ready to announce it, but I think we're seeing some ways to perhaps open up sometime in the future in a more measured way. And we're open to what other jurisdictions are doing. We're open to what your own viewers and readers think how it should roll out. But, we're beginning to have those discussions.
I mean, those scenarios that you're outlining, they certainly don't sound like April 30th, wave the magic wand, everything back to normal.
I don't think so, Yunji. I mean, I wish. I mean, every day, every week we go by more economic suffering, more emotional suffering, and would like to end that. But I think it's going to be hard to end it by the end of April. So I think people should be looking at a longer duration, but how much longer, I don't know. And I think we need a little bit more information. We need a little bit more science before we make that determination.
We've seen a lot of data now about these visitor arrivals, and I know that you have spoken out against having the visitors coming in for recreational purposes. Returning residents, of course, is a different matter, but those visitor arrivals, we seem to be getting more and more tourists actually coming to the islands. What's your take on that, and what is something that can be done to stem that tide?
Every day we've seen an increase, not a dramatic increase, but we still see visitors coming, and the slope is going up. Part of it is, the airfares are very low, and folks who could never afford to come to Hawaii now can come. And I asked myself, why would those folks endanger themselves traveling? But also, why would they endanger the community they're coming to celebrate in, the Aloha State, and in the people who live here? And, it's not something I say. Mayor Derek Kawakami says, when you travel, the virus travels. And the virus came here through travel. And so we really don't want to see any visitors coming. Of course, returning residents, essential workers, those kind of things we want to come. We want airlift to still come. We need the belly cargo, which is being brought here. We need our air crews to come. But no visitors should be coming to Hawaii at this point. It's not the place to come to. If you come, you got to be quarantined for 14 days in your room. You can't be at a beach. And I believe they are at the beach. I mean, we saw pictures of Lanikai. Some look like visitors to me, very pale people that looked like they came from the East Coast and were escaping the cold to have fun in the sun. This is not a place to come right now. The other thing is we're finding out is that some of these visitors are going to vacation rentals. So not going to hotels where you have a little bit more discipline, where hotel managers can make sure if a guest shows up, they stay quarantined in their room. And if they leave their room, they notify HPD and action can be taken. But if you're in a standalone vacation rental, there's no one to monitor whether you're in the vacation rental or not, and you go out to the beach or other places. It's very difficult for us to enforce. So my request is no visitors should be coming. Now, it's hard to stop them once they show up at DKI International Airport. They leave, they fill out a form, they put down a hotel, or if they put down a vacation rental, how do you know much about that? So it's really hard to enforce. And I wish we could stop them before they got here. And I believe there is a way, and it starts with the federal government not allowing non-essential people to come to Hawaii. It has to start at the airports, wherever these direct flights are coming in from. That's still my request. I'm hoping we'll see that curve go back down. But the trend right now is not a good one. And if we see a flattening of the curve, and Hawaii looks safer than many other places, if you look at some of the charts ranking states by the number of cases per capita, we're at the very bottom. We're down with Wyoming and New Mexico and places like that. And that's due to the good work, the very good work of everyone here and our isolation from the rest of the continent. But you could see a spike if more visitors come. So we don't want that. But visitors will come because, hey, Hawaii's safe. It's the safest place. Let's go there. And then we get sick. We don't want that to happen.
We heard you yesterday, and again, we want to thank everybody. There's a lot of comments coming in, and so we are trying to, extract what's that you're asking and ask it to the mayor. So it might not be your specific question, but around the same topic. And I want to talk to a little bit about some of the Airbnbs and the things that you addressed yesterday in your press conference. And there's questions about why don't we just completely shut that down? And you made it very clear yesterday in your statements that for you, that is not an essential worker. And these sort of Airbnbs aren't. If you can sort of explain your ideas and your feelings behind the Airbnbs.
Well, I've issued guidelines now, so it's in black and white, that vacation rentals are not deemed essential businesses. Hotels are deemed essential because we did have visitors staying in these hotels. These hotels are going to be used for hotels for heroes, our first responders who have nowhere to go. They don't want to go home and get their loved ones sick, so they can stay in a hotel. This is something that, our hats off to the visitor industry, to the Tourism Authority and Hotel and Lodging for the Hotel for Heroes program. That's an essential need for the hotels. We're also talking about hotels as a place where those who need to be quarantined and can't do it safely in their home because it's multi-generational, we're looking to have them housed in hotels, which is another essential need. And then even on our homeless challenges, as you know, we've initiated this post program at Kehi Lagoon, and we're going to be doing it in other parks. But should there be a need to house the homeless in a hotel, we would go to these hotels. The LA City, the County of Los Angeles has now done exactly that. They're moving 15,000 homeless folks into hotels in that county. So hotels are essential for all kinds of different reasons. But vacation rentals, they don't fit that model. They're not essential at this point. And part of our struggle is there's so many illegal vacation rentals, even though we're cracking down, they still exist. And so it's a bright line. Vacation rentals are not essential during this period of time. When we come out of this pandemic, legal vacation rentals can become operational again. Illegal ones we're going to continue to track down. But during this period of time, they're non-essential and they should not be opened for visitors.
Okay, we want to give you an opportunity also to address the issue of Sherwood. I'm seeing a lot of comments there. The project was on and now it's on hold. Can you just briefly tell us what the status of that is?
So, this has been a long ongoing process. As we started Sherwood's a long time ago, the project, based on a request from the community that started over 10 years ago. And with the protests and the arrests, and then we paused. And I sat down with members of the community in Waimanalo, leaders for Save Our Sherwoods, leaders in the community who wanted the play field, and I met 5 or 6 times, 3 to 5 hours each time. Justice Duffy helped moderate the discussion. And it was a powerful discussion, a lot of emotion, and I learned much. And I think as a result, what we're proposing to do out there is much better than what it was going to be. And requests were made to me. We agreed that a play field would be allowed, some kind of field, grassy field for kids, that we would no longer have a playground, that the parking lot would become a lot just for those who need ADA compliance, so for those with handicap and other types of physical disabilities, that it would be a field to gather in, that it would be wrapped with indigenous trees, native Hawaiian trees like ulu and hau and ko and other plants that would grow in this area well, getting rid of the invasive halikoa and that kind of thing. Those were all decided. And then 2 other requests were made of me that we would introduce 2 resolutions, one to make it clear that the City and County of Honolulu, the Mayor's office, does not support this master plan or the building out of any of the phases, that they need to start all new with the input from the community today, not just from 10, 12 years ago. And I introduced that reso. And then I introduced a second resolution where they asked that they wanted to rename Waimanalo Bay Beach Park to Hunana Niho. And this was a name for this area, maybe not exactly where the beach park is, but in the vicinity, that tells the story of this place way before white men showed up, when Cook showed up. And it also was to make the park a cultural and historic park. We have no such type of park here on Oahu. You have Lapakahi State Park in Kohala on the Big Island that, Ryan, you probably gone to. That's a pretty cool place. So it tells the story of the people who lived in this area way before anyone else showed up. And so I put in that reso. Neither reso has been heard. I wish they would have, because whether you agree or not, it would provide a platform for the community to come and testify in an organized setting before the Honolulu City Council where all voices could be heard. I still hope that occurs. But my point is, I did everything that was asked of me. And then the agreement was we'd proceed. So we went through this until early January. And then I asked, with this agreement, what I did, I asked the contractor to begin the project. But it took a couple months to start again, because you had to get your crew, they had to get all their equipment. And that date was this coming Monday. And I announced it on Sunday because I figured I want to let everyone know we don't want to look like we're sneaking in without telling anyone. And there were protests, but Youngji and Ryan, I thought on Monday the protests were respectful. They were practicing social distancing. 2 people were cited. One was a camper who'd been there for a long period of time. And we're proceeding. But when we found the Evie, this 3-inch arm bone, we paused. We sat down with SHPD, State Historic Preservation Office, and the Oahu Burial Council to make sure we follow all the protocols. And that's where we are today. The Evie that was found has been dealt with in a very respectful way, as the sun set yesterday, with very few people there, leaders of the community, along with the archaeologists and others, made sure that the Evie was reinterred with great respect. And now we're pausing. We're going to continue to work with SHPD and the Oahu Burial Council. And we don't want to create an issue where people are gathering and endangering each other during this pandemic. So that will be factored in too. For me, I'm going to follow every protocol. I'm hopeful that we can have the community come together and all of us come to a resolution in a way where everyone's concerns are addressed. There are people who want nothing there, and there are people who want the entire project completed. And I'm trying as mayor to find that balance in a way that addresses most of the concerns and where all voices are heard. And I'm going to be listening actively and going forward.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you addressed that because we're getting so many comments. Let's shift back to COVID now. I know that you are a busy guy, so we're going to let you go. But could you give us a final thought? Like you said, we're heading into that 3-day weekend. Now we have the directive of the mask. People are getting antsy. It's been a couple weeks now, and they just kind of feel like, I just want to get outside. What do you say to the folks that are sitting at home right now and watching you?
Thank you, Youngji. I think about Easter. For me, I think about Easter. I think about spring, rebirth, renewal, hope. People gather, families gather, a lot of good food. People go to church, worship their God of their choice. And it's a beautiful time. And I know there's people who want to go and return to that. As I said, so much sacrifice has already been made. So much hurt exists. Please stay the course. Please stay the course through the end of April. It could determine how we climb out of this. It can determine what happens in May and going forward. And so, yes, you need to get out. If it's a beautiful day, you want to get outside. Go for a walk, go for a run. I do it in Manoa. Very few other people, although I see more people out biking and riding and jogging and walking with their masks, practicing good social distancing. So I'd ask for that. And we owe it to each other. The way we show love during this holiday is by taking care of ourselves and our loved ones, by being good practitioners of social distancing, so we can come back together as one ohana, where we can start hugging each other again, where we can be closer, where our families can gather. Yunji, I think about your kids and Easter egg hunts and that kind of stuff. And in the old days, our whole family would gather, multi-generations, and that can't happen. That's sad in one way. But in the long term, we're going to be better if we just follow all the orders, comply a little longer, please. Don't get fatigued yet. Gut it out, push on through. We're in a winter right now, but we're going to enter a summer that's going to be better if we just hunker down now.
All right, great. Thank you so much again for taking the time and for taking on these questions that, and we want to thank the readers as well for submitting them. But we know you have a lot to get to, so we'll let you go. Thank you again.
I'd be honored to come back again when it's convenient for you guys.
Thank you.
so
Great.
much.
You have an open invitation for sure.
Thank you.
Oh, and I love that. I love that Sig Zane mask. We're going to have to get you one, Ryan. I know you've got every print of their Aloha shirt, but I don't think you've got their mask. Hey, thanks, guys. We see so many questions there, and we really appreciate that. We are definitely going to have the mayor back on. We loved all of your suggestions. Also, yesterday, we put a call out for suggestions for guests. And next week, we've got the governor, the lieutenant governor, the school superintendent. We have some really great leaders in our community who are here to take your questions. So this is a space where we get to have that back and forth. It's not just sound bites. You really get to hear the mayor's full thought process, or whoever the leader might be. So please send in those questions and send in those suggestions, because we want to know who you want to hear from. We want to tell you a little bit more news. And this goes back to our unemployment guest, to Scott Murakami. They are going to be getting some reinforcements, Ryan.
That's right. So one of the things that we know is that there are a lot of state workers who are sort of idle in other positions in other departments. And so as soon as, Monday next week, they're going to be looking to move a pool of potentially up to 706 idle state workers and move them over to the Department of from the Human Resources, and move them over to the Department of Labor to help out, just because of the influx of the number of unemployment claims that are coming in. So we know that help is coming. I think that's much needed relief. And it actually came up in a Senate hearing where lawmakers were asking questions to department heads and trying to see where they can reallocate resources and people and personnel to assist the departments that need the most help, like Department of Labor right now.
Yeah, and we are going to have Scott Murakami on again, not next week, but the week after. So more unemployment questions. I know some of you are asking for those numbers. They should be in the show notes. If not from today, I thought I put them in the description, but as soon as we log off, I'll make sure that they're there for the unemployment office. And they're definitely in yesterday's post. And if you happen to be watching and you missed yesterday, was that yesterday?
Tuesday. Yeah, 2 days ago.
Tuesday. Yesterday was Senator Schatz. I apologize. If you happen to miss that, go ahead and take a look at that, because I thought Scott Murakami gave a lot of really good information. Going back to what the mayor was saying, the Star-Advertiser's big question today: what do you think of police stepping up citations and enforcement of the stay-at-home order? The mayor giving us a warning, saying that they're going to be shifting from warnings to citations. Remember, $5,000 fine or up to a year in jail. Not necessarily rendered on the spot, but you could get booked. You'd have to go down. I mean, it's just not anything that anyone wants to deal with, adding that stress right now. The vast majority of people who have responded in the Star-Advertiser poll, it is unscientific, but the vast majority of respondents say that they welcome the citations, they welcome the enforcement.
Yeah, and he also said that we could expect to see a lot more of that heading into the long weekend. So he was warning people, for those that may be planning to go to the beaches, to the areas where they saw a lot of people gathering this past or last weekend, to expect to see that coming up. We know that there's still a lot of questions coming in for the mayor. Obviously, he's not here with us right now. And a lot of the questions for those who came in later were actually addressed at the beginning of our broadcast, including the question about that pay raise, that the story that came out yesterday. The mayor addressed that, as well as Sherwood. So we encourage you, if you came in late, go back and rewatch this, because the mayor addressed some of those hot button issues that we know a lot of people continue to be concerned about, and we're typing in questions. So we thank you for sending that in, and we encourage you to go on back there and look at some of those statements made by the mayor.
Yeah, and bottom line on the raises, they're not taking them, they're not asking for them. And that's a clarification that his office wanted to make very strongly. Of course, we want to highlight a Hawaii hero. We don't want to have all negative news. So we are highlighting Bank of Hawaii today. They are amazing. They're doing an unprecedented $3 million donation to the Hawaii Community Foundation's Hawaii Resilience Fund. That's established by HCF and the Omidyar Ohana Foundation. That's to address these growing social and economic impacts of COVID-19. $3 million, so $1 million to address health and safety in the community. That's things like PPE and helping frontline medical professionals. $1 million to feed and nourish the community. That kind of explains itself. And $1 million to enable economic revitalization. That is helping families who, have small businesses, nonprofits, low-cost loans for lower-income families. Just amazing to see this company stepping up in this really, really big way. $3 million is a lot of money. So we tip our hat to them. And we want to hear from you, who should be our Hawaii hero. So if you've got someone in the community, it doesn't necessarily need to be a $3 million gift. Whoever they are, please let us know who we should give a shout out to. But we really want to tip our hat to Bank of Hawaii today.
That's right. And again, unprecedented number, 3 million, one of the largest, if not the largest contribution made to date for the battle against COVID-19. Again, looking forward to next week, as well as, again, we'll be here tomorrow again at 10:30, but next week we will be having the governor, lieutenant governor, superintendent, as well as Senator Mazie Hirono, and as well as a family psychologist to talk about some of the family issues that may be happening in your home. So we have a full week again next week, but again, we'll be back here tomorrow. We want to continue to encourage everyone to stay at home. As the mayor was saying, it's easy to get complacent. It's easy to get itchy, and you just want to get out of here, get out of your home. But we want to encourage everybody to continue to stay home.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at 10:30. Let us know who you want to hear from. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and we wish you a fond aloha.
We'll see you tomorrow. Aloha.